I am a big believer in starting every workout with a big barbell movement, and that includes even people training for bodybuilding purposes. And I'm saying that even as someone whose training itself is now very much physique and bodybuilding oriented, even though I've historically been a strength athlete. And I think the reason for that is because there's just something very simple about barbell training, something very basic. And it has always been our foundation of training. Keep in mind, the loaded adjustable barbell was the single biggest resistance training invention of all time that had the most positive impact on training, because it allowed people to take one device and to work their entire body. Again, and we need to be clear, there is not a single muscle in your body that you cannot work with a barbell. And I'm not saying other tools aren't useful. Keep in mind, I own a couple of machines. And I even own a glute ham device. I mean, I have 3 different sizes of adjustable dumbbells. I have a lot of stuff, okay? And I use all those things. And yet I always like to go back to that foundation. And it's because there's so much that we can do with barbells, right? They're so functional in terms of their ability to let us just do really big exercises and move a lot of weight. And in some cases, even your isolation movements, because I like to do curls with a barbell first, right, before I go over to all my dumbbell stuff. Even though for me right now, because I need bigger biceps, I do a lot of dumbbell work. Most of my work is with dumbbells, but I start with a barbell curl, right? And so a lot of these exercises you're seeing me do through this clip are stuff that I do at the start of a workout, right? We do them at the start of the workout. But some of them are done midway through, because a lot of body parts respond really well. Things like upper chest with a barbell incline, your back with rows. And again, I think we should use all the different tools that we have. Again, I'm a big fan of dumbbells. I'm a big fan of weighted body weight exercise. I love weighted pull-ups, weighted chin-ups. There are even machines I like, reverse hyper. I think leg presses can be great, right? The old classic 45-degree sled leg press, I think those are phenomenal, right? I think they're phenomenal. In fact, even for my power lifters, we use those as a supplemental tool. A lot of my elite squatters, some of my biggest squatters I've coached, we spend a lot of time on the leg press. So again, the point of bringing all that up is to make it clear that I'm not a barbell purist. I'm not one of these guys who says, the only thing that we ever need is a barbell. What I'm saying with the barbell is that you could get by with only a barbell and still develop a really impressive physique, still develop, extreme levels of strength. Okay, and it's because, again, it is such a ubiquitous and universal tool, because again, we can do so many things with it. So the reason I like to start with it though is because I am generally a believer in starting with our biggest exercises and then working down. And usually barbells are going to be our biggest exercises, okay? A bench press, whether it's a flat incline or a decline, is probably the biggest chest exercise you can do. All right, it really is. It's going to work the most total muscles. It's going to let us use the heaviest weight while doing so. Okay, and I like dumbbells. Don't get me wrong, I think dumbbells can be fantastic for chest. But we're going to move more total weight with the barbell. Right, and since I'm a big fan of starting with big movements and then working down all the way down to even our single-sided exercises, again, I like to do preacher curls with one arm. I like to do leg extensions with one leg. Right, these are things I prescribe all the time as finishers. Right, those are exercises that we use to finish a muscle, to make sure that we got all the available muscle fibers, and that's why we might even go with a dumbbell. That's why we might even go with a single side, just to make sure that we trained both sides balanced, made sure that we got all those deeper muscle fibers, finishing it off. But that's not how we build the base, right? The barbells tend to be our best foundational exercises. So even if I have a lifter who we're going to go over to a bunch of dumbbell work, I'm going to want them to start with a barbell for chest. We're almost always going to, because we want that big movement. Even if it's the incline, right? Even if their primary movement they want to do is the incline because they want that upper chest, I'm always going to do that first, and then we're going to go to the dumbbells. Same thing with a leg press. I'm always going to have a lifter squat. We're going to do back squats. Then we're going to come behind it and hit some heavy volume with a leg press. And then we might even finish with a leg extension. We might even finish with a single leg extension. Okay? Because those movements are not always our biggest base builders. Okay? The barbell gives us the most potential. Same thing, you see me doing RDLs there before I go over and start working my other smaller hamstring exercises, right? Or I might be doing a conventional deadlift before I do any of that. Okay? Probably the only exception would be, for me, would be lats. I like to do pull-ups or chin-ups before barbell rows. But I don't ever do back on its own day. Back always gets thrown in with other stuff because I just personally find the back easy to do. And usually a lot of my clients who run like a push-pull legs will tend to do a deadlift before that anyways, before we go over to pull-ups. But I like to do stuff that way. Arm day, we're going to start with a close grip bench, and we're going to start with a barbell curl. Okay? And then work our way down to the smaller and smaller exercises with more and more isolation as we go. Generally speaking, that is what has historically produced the best results, going back even to the 40s and 50s. They realized back then, look, you do the big movements and the small movements. You saw a few bodybuilders from certain eras where the gear use started getting really high that pre-exhausted. But in the lab, that has never worked very well. It's always produced inferior muscle growth. Okay? It's always produced inferior muscle growth. It's just not efficient. Right? It doesn't give you the most efficient use of muscle fiber recruitment. Going biggest and small to smallest and working your way down has generally produced the best results. Just like in the studies that looked at tricep development, they found the biggest tricep development, if they combined a couple exercises where guys did all their bench press and then they did a tricep extensions afterward. That actually produced, when comparing like 4 different groups, and some novice lifters, gave the best tricep results. And it wasn't an enormous difference, but it was measurable. So we go big to small. So if you're doing a chest and tricep day, I'm going to say, yes, obviously do your barbell work first and whatever dumbbells, then ease over into whatever tricep work you're going to do. Okay? The only exception might be someone who needs more tricep than chest. Maybe they'll do their triceps before any chest isolation. Again, matter of assessing weak points, but we're always starting with the barbell. We start with the basics. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.